So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It's my distinct pleasure to welcome Maree Scully. She is an ICF professional certified coach with over 1,000 hours of coaching and mentor coaching experience, founder of Coaching for Growth Limited, and she has worked across Asia and West Africa for last 25 years, empowering leaders from diverse sectors, including healthcare, law, IT, and development. Her workshops are known for practical tools, conversational intelligence, and deep focus on self-awareness and resilience. So here to you, Maree. Maree, over to you. And thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, thank you, Varundeep. I'm sorry, my power just went off. I'm calling from Uttarakhand and it's still raining cats and dogs here, like you may have seen on the news. So the power comes and goes. It's a real joy to be here. I'm looking forward to sharing some learning with you, and I really hope it will help you in your work in a practical way. And as you heard, I'm a coach and a trainer, and I originate from New Zealand. So while I've lived in India many years, I still have the New Zealand accent. And unfortunately, it's the only accent I have. So if you can't understand something I say or I speak too quickly, please ask me to repeat myself. I have no problem with that at all. That's a curse that us Kiwis have, that most of the world doesn't understand us. So I'm just going to start by asking, I'd love to know where you're calling in from. Type in the chat box where you're calling in from this evening so we can see who's here, from which parts of India you're calling in from. I want this to be interactive. Unfortunately, I can't see any of you, which is disappointing. But I want this to be as interactive as possible. And at some stage, maybe you'll get to speak, hopefully. So thank you. We have Bangalore, Pune, Ahmedabad, New Delhi, Nagpur, Singapore, Surat. That is fantastic. Kochi. We're from one end of the country to the other, and even slightly out of the country. Pune seems to be winning as far as locations. So thank you for joining. I know you guys work long days and you give up your evenings to be here. So I really hope this learning will be valuable. So I'm going to share for about half an hour, and then Dr. Vikas will share the remaining time. So I want to share with you this evening. Let me just share my screen. I want to share with you some learning that I found really helpful about the brain and about leadership. And so I called this From Cortisol to Dopamine. Now, I want to say up front, this is not original to me. This is a science that's come from the Neuro Leadership Foundation, which is an organization that does a lot of neuroscience to back effective leadership. So I'm sharing something that's not mine, but I'm sharing something I hope you'll find really helpful. So let's just start by talking about the brain. Now, I'm not a doctor like Dr. Vikas, so I hope I don't get this wrong. But let me ask you, type in the chat box if you've been in a situation recently where you experienced conflict or high emotion or some kind of tension, and later on you thought, gosh, I wish I'd said that. Gosh, I wish I'd done that. Like in the moment, you weren't able to think clearly. But later on, you felt some clarity about what you could have said or done. Has anyone been in that situation? I do it all the time. Thank you, Ivan. When there's a time limit for the work and you're under stress, right? And the reason for that is, sorry, I've got the chat box open here, is the brain has lots of functions, but right in the middle of our brain, I understand, is an area called the limbic system. And the limbic system is what drives our emotions. The limbic system kicks in when we have that fright, flight, fear system. That's when the limbic system kicks in. And it tells us where to put our energy, and it becomes very strong in that it overrides other systems in the brain. So you think about a time when you felt, fearful or frightened or in some kind of threat. The limbic system kicks in and tells you, you need to run, you need to be afraid. This is not a good situation. The other system is that right in the front of our head is the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex is our cognitive system, right? It's our thinking system. It's our logic, it's our understanding, it's where our working memory is. So when there's a threat, when there's something like when we're feeling fright or flight or fearful, the limbic system overrides the prefrontal cortex. They don't work nicely together at the same time. And so that's why when we're in a situation of tension or conflict, our emotional system takes over and it overrides our ability to think clearly when there's a threat there. So that's just a little bit about the brain. So we cannot think logically until our limbic system is happy. And when our limbic system is unhappy, we're in a threat mode. So what's this got to do with leadership? Well, the brain cannot distinguish, this is what I understand, between if you're about to be eaten by a bear or you're in a social setting and you're being rejected. Both of those are huge threats to the brain. And so our brain has a social organizing system. When you go into a team meeting, when we go into any social setting, our brain is scanning for threats. It's subconsciously just, am I safe? Is this okay? It's not. And the threat system is stronger than the good. The reward system is the positive things, the happy things, but the threat system is stronger. So we're always subconsciously scanning for threats. Now, this is the piece I found really interesting and that I would love you to hear your thoughts on, is that neuroscience has said that there are 5 particular domains that we're scanning for when it comes to social threat. There are 5 particular domains that our brain is scanning for, whether this be socially, whether this be in your workplace. So let's, for example, you're going into a team meeting or you're going into a meeting with your bosses. The first thing we're scanning for subconsciously is my importance and my value. Do I feel valued here? You know, we all have this drive to feel valued. We all have this drive to kind of stand out and do well. In fact, research has shown that the reason, this is Western research, but the reason most people leave their jobs is not for better opportunities and not for better salary. It's because they didn't feel valued. So feeling valued is really important to us. Do I feel important and valued in this situation, in this group? That's the first thing our brain is scanning for. The second thing is certainty. We all like to naturally know what's going on. We all like to know what the next days, weeks, hours look like. We like a sense of certainty. And so we feel a little bit of a threat or a large threat when we're not sure what's happening or what's coming. Now, when you think about this one, and the other one is autonomy, we all like to have a sense of control, a control over our work, a control over our decisions. I was thinking about this during the pandemic when I was here during lockdown, particularly the first lockdown. There was a lot of fighting amongst my neighbours, like literally coming out and yelling at each other. And at one time the police were called. And I think looking back, people lost certainty. We didn't know what was about to happen. We'd never been in this situation before. we couldn't tell what was going to happen this week, next week. But we also lost a sense of control. We couldn't, we were told when we could go out and when we couldn't go out. So autonomy, a sense of control over our situations, is really important to us. Relatedness, a need for connection and belonging. We all have an inner desire to feel like we belong. So you're in a team or a group setting, you're like, do I belong here? Am I on the in group or am I on the out group? Where do I belong in this group, or do I belong in this group? We have this need for connection and a need for belonging. And then the last one is fairness. Are decisions made fairly around here? Are policies applied equally? Why does it seem that so-and-so gets more leave, allowance on leave and I don't? So-and-so gets pay rises and I don't. You know, we have a sense of fairness. Is everyone being treated fairly and equitably? And so when those things are not happening, well, then we feel a strong threat. And obviously when we're feeling threat, that affects our workplace and our ability to work. Let me just pause there and see if anyone has any questions. Either raise your hand or type something in the chat box. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions? So these are the 5 domains that influence our social behavior. And these are the 5 things that activate reward or stress in our brains. Thank you, Gaurav. Good to know that one person is understanding. That's excellent. So you think about, let me give an example. Say you say to one of your direct reports, you know, it's 5 minutes before finishing, everyone's kind of packing up to leave, and you say to one of your direct reports, hey, can we have a chat in the morning? How might that trigger a threat? You haven't said what you're chatting about. Now, their brain could go to, wow, maybe I'm getting promotion. But remember, threat is stronger than a reward. They're more likely to think, oh my goodness, I'm in trouble. What have I done wrong? What's going on here? And they're likely to lose sleep all night because you've just said, hey, can we have a chat first thing in the morning without any further context? So a comment like that could create a threat reaction in someone. If you said to someone, yeah, I have some feedback on how you led that team meeting yesterday. Can I share that with you? For many people, that would create a threat, like, oh, I don't know what's about to happen here. So certainty, relatedness, like, oh, am I on the out now because I didn't do something right? Even status, like, oh, am I being valued for what I did or not? So comments we make can create threats. Yeah, thank you, Ivan. Yeah, if one of the scarves is high, it creates a stress reaction or a threat reaction, like that cortisol in our brain. That cortisol is the stress hormone, right? And dopamine is the happy hormone. So if it creates stress in our brains, it triggers stress, then that has other flow-on effects to the workplace climate. So think about your own situations. Think about just in the last week, maybe or last month, when you were in a difficult conversation or a difficult situation at work. What was being threatened for you? Was your importance and value being threatened? Were you feeling like lack of certainty? I don't know what's going to happen here. Did you feel a lack of control, like you had no say in what was happening, no decisions? Did you feel a relational connection, like, oh, I'm in the outer now? Or was it a fairness thing, like, gosh, why is no one else being pulled up for this? So when you think about your own situation, you can apply. It can help you understand yourself, but it can also help you understand others, those that you're supervising, your team. But it's good to understand yourself first, like, oh, what's going on here? Why am I reacting like this? So here's a question. And this is where, unfortunately, I can't see you, or I can't actually hear you, but maybe if you put your hand up, I think they can unmute you. As leaders, you guys are all leaders. How might you be unconsciously sending threat signals to those around you, to your team or those around you? Can you think of some examples? Because we're not consciously, none of us are consciously trying to threaten those around us, but how might we be unconsciously sending threat signals to those around us? Type in the chat box or put your hand up if you have any ideas. I would like to have the report ASAP. Thank you, Ivan.
Yeah, and maybe the non-verbal cues, like crossed arms, lack of eye contact, or too much eye contact, or there is a impatient tone that comes in, and or maybe the commands are very directive, or we are talking over people, interrupting them, making or perceived in-group or out-group favoritism. And if we don't acknowledge the contributions of people. So I think these are few things we might be sending them kind of a threat signal or not a very positive signal.
Oh, wow, thank you, Varundeep. That was a lot. Yeah, I mean, I like what you said too, is perceived. Sometimes people perceive our motives wrongly or perceive our words wrongly. So it may not be that we are actually saying anything that's wrong or threatening, but it may be perceived because of somehow the way we said it, or because of other factors. But you're right. So when we don't listen, what does that signal to someone? We're not listening when we interrupt them. Varun Deep mentioned that. Which of the scarf might that be triggering? I mean, it could be a couple, right? It could be the relational one, or it could be the status. Like, you're not that important. I'm not listening to you. Like, like what you have to say, I'm not willing to wait and hear what you have to say. Yeah, not valued. Yeah, thank you, Anish. Not wanted. Yeah. So there are many things small things we can do where we don't acknowledge people. They don't feel valued. Thank you, Amrita. Not being fully transparent. So when we're not transparent, that might create a fairness threat. Like, I don't understand I don't understand this policy. It seems to help some and not others. Like, suddenly there's a perceived lack of fairness because we haven't been transparent. Yeah. So I think there are many things we can do unconsciously that can say or do that can create a threat for those in our environment. Now, obviously, we have to have team meetings, annual reviews, feedbacks, difficult conversations. They're all part of leadership. But there can be ways we can be aware that how we say things or how we set things up might create a threat. So when we say to someone, hey, can we have a chat first thing in the morning? It would be helpful to say, I just want you to know, yeah, I've got some new and exciting ideas to share with you. Or, like to give some context. Or when you're having a hard conversation, say, I just want to know you're really valued around here, but we do need to talk about this so that we're being aware that this conversation may trigger some threats here. and we want to mitigate those. So let me ask you, if we are subconsciously sending threats in our team meetings or to our team or the way we relate to people, what might that do for the climate of our workplace or the climate of our team? Type in the chat box or unmute yourself. What might that do for the climate of our workplace if we're unconsciously sending threats? Thank you, Ivan. Yeah, less enthusiasm. So less engagement, right? If your team when we feel threatened, what do? We protect ourselves. We don't engage. And then we just, like I say, we disengage relationally, we disengage mentally, we don't put our best in our work. Yeah, thank you, Ivan. Anything else? If we feel, you think about your own situation, when you're feeling threatened or you've been in a job and you didn't feel valued, or you didn't feel you had autonomy, you didn't feel you had certainty, how did you respond, or what did that do? Thank you, Anish. Yeah, withdraw. We withdraw. We don't give our best selves. We show up and just do what we have to. We keep under the radar. And when that's the case, we creates a barrier. Yeah, thank you. Creates a barrier. Let me share, sorry, gone the wrong way here. Let me share a few things that I think can happen. When we're feeling like threatened, not valued, things are not fair, we don't want to collaborate. So we withdraw. I don't want to engage with my teammates. I don't want to collaborate. When we feel threatened, we don't always have the same self-control. We can have outbursts. We can have anger. We can say things we later regret. Our reasoning, when we're in that cortisol, flight, fight, freeze, our reasoning goes down. Our intelligence, we don't think so clearly. Innovation, right? Yeah, thank you, Mahesh. Less likely to take ownership. Productivity, innovation, creativity, productivity. Engagement, as we've said, as Ivan said and Anish said, engagement, mistakes go up. So if we're functioning in a workplace where we're feeling threatened because of one or many of these different scar factors, then that's not a great workplace, right? That's not an effective place. That's not a great place to work. So those are some of the potential consequences. So here's the question. As leaders, what can you do to send reward signals? These are the 5 SCARF social threat reward frameworks. What can you do consciously as a leader to create reward signals so that you're reducing the threat and you're creating a more positive space where there's a dopamine hit, not a cortisol hit, where there's happy hormones? Pick one of these and give us a suggestion on what you could do.
And if somebody wants to speak, they can raise their hands and I will unmute.
Yeah, feel free to speak. Ivan, go ahead. I mean, Ivan wants to speak.
Okay, one you can unmute and speak.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, Ivan.
Yeah, basically, I wanted to talk about the 5th one, fairness. When there is, equal opportunity of being treated equally for all, I mean, with everyone, whatever situation it may be, the feeling of togetherness, remains there. So I would favor the last option of fairness.
So, Ivan, I assume you're leading a team of people or a group of people. How do you demonstrate fairness to those team? How do they know you're being fair?
Yeah, basically what I do is like when I have a team meeting, I have some like, not so much enthusiastic, some, too overactive. So just to get on to the same, gelling, like, I would probably actually, have some humor across and then, make sure that everyone is in sync in what the agenda is that I'm going to start about and take it up from there. And I always find everyone to be engrossed, in the way I put things across on whatever
Mm.
the agenda is. So that way I get the attention and, their thoughts as well, like
Mm.
cross question certain things like, if this is understood or there is something that you have in mind. So basically to get to know the intra and inter, conversation is what important. That's important. Like, when you look at that person as you're speaking, and if you can easily make out whether the person is able to really correlate and understand fully, or is it partially, or there could be some doubts. So, I mean, this is actually, over the experience of handling teams, I've come across to understand certain things like that.
Mm. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Ivan. I like the way you include people, you draw people out. You
Yeah,
yeah, and I think fairness makes sure that everyone has a voice, right? Like one person doesn't dominate or two people don't dominate, that you
that's
say,
right.
Ivan, I haven't heard from you. We'd love to hear your thoughts. That you equally are showing that you want to hear from everyone. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Does someone else have their hand up? Dr. Vikas or someone else? I'm not sure who else had their hand up.
Mine
Yeah,
was
maybe
not.
not. Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts on how do we as leaders send reward signals to people? Because I think we do the threat ones unconsciously, but how do we send the reward ones?
So can I?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just getting a feeling that uh, a little bit of autonomy is very helpful, I guess. I mean, of course, we don't want, I mean, the leaders, of course, have to take control of the bigger picture, or you can say. But they, on a day-to-day basis, if they people in their teams, if they can have a little bit of autonomy on, like, for example, in my work culture, when I come to office in the morning, no one dictates or no one actually tells me what I'm supposed to be doing today. There's a broader picture. The broader picture is defined. But now within that framework, I have to figure out, okay, what today I need to do that will enable me to achieve this. So if we can bring about some amount of, I'm not saying a lot of autonomy, but a certain degree of autonomy, I think people thrive. They don't get this feeling that, okay, then you don't become like just like a worker who comes to the office, gets orders from the boss or something, and then just executes that. So I think that part people can encourage. People will be more creative and will own like what they are doing, I guess. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Letting people choose what they work on. What's their priority? They have the bigger picture. Yeah, Varun, go ahead.
Yeah, Anish has also typed in regular appreciation and gratitude.
Yeah. If I could see your hands, I'd ask you, how many of us are feeling overappreciated in our work? Most of us are not feeling overappreciated, and we get so busy we forget to appreciate people. So yeah, that people will feel valued, won't they? They'll feel important when they get genuine appreciation.
So if I may try, maybe in status, like Anish said, acknowledgements publicly or privately, and maybe on terms of certainty, it is like if we set the clear expectations and timelines, and And then in terms of autonomy, if we avoid unnecessarily maybe approvals or bottlenecks, that gives a kind of autonomy like Vikas mentioned. And relatedness, maybe encourage collaboration, not just coordination, and creating time for informal conversations and team bonding. I think that is very important. And that is what it creates the sense of belongingness and fairness. I think Ivan mentioned in terms of like treating people equally, maybe creating certain policies so that people can refer to and see that everyone is being treated fairly or not, and maybe listen actively, because most of times we dictate and we fail to listen.
Very nice. That was a great list. You've ticked a lot of all of those. Thank you so much. Those are really nice examples of really simple and practical things we can do to make people feel valued, to show fairness, relatedness, extending, thank you, Anish, transparency. I'm just aware of the time and I don't want to take more time than I've been allocated. But let me just run through a few, like status, a sense of importance and value, right? How do we maximize rewards? Give credit for a job well done. What's the opposite of giving credit? Taking credit for others' work. We don't take the credit. We give credit for a job well done. We share their accomplishments. I was at an IT company in Chandigarh last year, and I happened to be there for their monthly appreciation hour, where employees got up and appreciated each other, but sharing accomplishments, appreciating one another, seeking ideas and suggestions. When your boss says to you, I want to know what you think. What would you do here? You think, wow, my boss actually thinks I've got something to contribute. We feel valued, right? Seeking ideas and suggestions from those that are in our team. Maybe they've got a better idea than you. Provide development opportunities. Hey, I'm sending you on a half-day course. Wow, the boss thinks I'm worth developing. Giving more responsibility. They just small ways, and some of them bigger ways, of showing you're important and we value you. So those are just I mean, there's many more that I'm putting here, but those are some ideas. Certainty. Knowing what to expect. So clear and transparent expectations. Clear plans, clear directions. See, this word clear is coming up a lot. Clear roles and responsibilities. Who's responsible for what? Who does what? What's the plan here? Clear and timely communication. See, I think it's really stressful if there's just always last-minute changes or communication that's vague, unclear communication. Changes are announced, but no one's really sure what that means. So it's clear and timely communication and being available and approachable to provide clarity. For people who, like, this is really strong certainty, they can knock on your office door and say, can you help me understand what this looks like? Because certainty is really important for people. So those are just some things. But, you know, certainty around what am I going to be held accountable for? What is my job? When those things are vague, that's a threat for people, or can be a threat. Autonomy. Like the opposite of autonomy is kind of micromanaging, right? Telling people where they need to sit, what they need to work on, what they do. We don't want to micromanage. We want to trust people. We want to give the time, space, and flexibility to choose how they work. Maybe it's where they sit. Maybe it's this flexibility of when you come to work and when you don't. I know there's policies around that, but choices about the work or location, freedom, and encourage initiatives to try new things. You know, do people have choices about trying new things or implementing new ideas? Giving responsibility. You take the decision for this. You're responsible for this. And being consultative, not directive, not telling people what to do, but giving them, helping them to be part of the decision-making processes. So again, just some ideas on how we help people be involved, that they have some control over their work and over their decisions. Relatedness, a sense of belonging. And again, we all want to belong. Just being careful of our language, that we don't talk about me, but we talk about we. I was at there's, as you know, I live in Dehradun. There's a number of prominent schools in this city, and I was invited to the theatre production of the senior boys play last year at one of the schools because my friend works there. And at the end, it was a great evening. The principal got up and she said, she was talking about these senior boys, and they're all going off to college, right? She said, "I'm so proud of my boys." And I just cringed on the inside. They're not her boys, they're our boys. The whole school has got them to that stage, not her. And her me and not we, the my boys. I felt really sad about that. So what is our language communicating? Is it communicating we, or is it communicating me? Creating opportunities for connection. Varun said this. I don't know if you have lunch at your desk, or let's all have lunch together once a week. And, like just opportunities where we can actually connect. Opportunities for team building, offsite, onsite. Fun, having fun together. Scheduling one-on-one check-ins. So it's not always just team, but you take time with each person. I realize, you're busy people, but just making people a priority. And then just noticing, is there anyone in the team who's a bit isolated? There's anyone on the fringe? How can you draw that person in? And then finally, fairness, transparency in how decisions are made. Now, I know as bosses, you can't tell everyone everything, but where you can, be transparent. This is how we came to the decision. This is the reason, this is the value. Be transparent. Clear policies, clear expectations, clear objectives. Clarifying individuals' goals, people's roles, hierarchy. Just a lot of clarity around that will help people to see help them to see things are fair. Seeking wider input, like we're working on a policy for this. Do you guys have any ideas? Get some buy-in so that people sense, oh, the process has been done fairly, as well as the outcome has been done fairly. So those are just some ideas of how to create rewards instead of threats. We want to avoid threat status where we can and move towards reward status. And that is a foundation for psychological safety. And that's a bigger topic than we have time to talk about here. But I'm sure in your workplaces, you're all familiar with psychological safety. And this is the neuroscience behind some of those things. This is the brain's way of operating in social settings. And if you're not sure about psychological safety, have a look at, since you're all techie people, there was a big psychological study done at Google a number of years ago called Project Aristotle. And they were trying to work out why do some teams perform better than others? Why do some teams perform better than others? And there was 3 or 4 factors that the high-performing teams have, but by far the highest was psychological safety in their teams. And so what we've talked about tonight is very much a foundation for psychological safety. So as we close my piece, let me tell you, if you Google NLI, Neuro Leadership Institute SCARF assessment, you can do a little questionnaire and assess yourself. When I assess myself, for some of us, some of the SCARFs are higher triggers than others. So fairness is my highest trigger. I don't worry too much about status, but fairness is really high, which is a tricky one in India. I feel like I get triggered all the time. But if you Google it and want to do the quick assessment, it doesn't take long. You'll be able to see what your highest triggers are in the SCARF domain. So yeah, I want you to reflect and just write down one insight that you want to capture from what we've talked about, and one habit you want to create as a result. What's something you can do in your workplace tomorrow that you can continue to work on? And maybe if you're brave enough, you can write either one of those in the chat box, an insight or a habit. Thank you, Ivan. They don't always have to link. Your questions are like each linking to one another, but they are related. So it could be that I'm having a fairness threat. I just feel like the boss treats her much nicer than he treats me. I might feel valued around here, but I feel like things are not fair. But but it may be two or three things are threatened at the same time. If I'm your direct reporting, you're giving me some negative feedback, I might feel I'm not valued. I might feel that's not fair. I might feel some certainty threat, like, oh my goodness, is my job under threat here? Am I going to have a job? So certain things can trigger more than one threat. Does anyone want to type in their insight or their habit in the chat box? I want to know that somebody learned something. And then I'll hand it back to Varundeep. I am done. Thank you. Yeah, clarify expectations. People do thrive when they know what's expected of them. Absolutely right. Tasks, behavior, performance, everything. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
I think people are thinking, and you got them thinking. So yeah, they are just processing it. Thank you very much, Maree, for an insightful session. SCARF is a very good acronym that sets in, and probably in every week, I would like to have an assessment across these, how I am faring in terms of sending reward signals and threat signals. It is a very nice way of doing it, and thank you. If you can also share the link of the SCARF assessment, if it is available with you, that will be great. And I think it was a great session. I learned a lot and a lot of action items that I could have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vikas, are you ready? I'll just briefly introduce you.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Well, can I will get
Yeah.
the presentation up?
Right. So after Maree, we have Dr. Vikas, who is a ICF BCC trained emotional intelligence coach and life coach with over 17 years of public health leadership experience with WHO. He's trained under Dr. Brain West in regression therapy and certified practitioner in mind-body medicine. Vikas brings a unique blend of scientific depth and holistic insight to emotional intelligence, healing, and personal growth. Over to you, Dr. Vikas, and welcome.
Yeah. Thank you, Varundeep, for that introduction and this opportunity. I hope I'm clearly audible.
Yes.
Right. So I'll be sharing my thoughts on personal growth and well-being. And please do not take these as commandments. I'm just humbly inviting you to listen and think and reflect and see if it resonates with you. But I'm sure if it resonates with you, you will definitely begin to think and act differently. I believe we are all victims, and we are victim of social conditioning. Now, what do I mean? Social conditioning is basically the way we are programmed to
Excuse
think
me,
and
Dr. Vikas, your voice is a bit low. If you can please
Okay.
increase the volume.
Just a minute. Am I audible now?
Yeah, it's much better.
Clearly?
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I'm referring to social conditioning, basically it is the way we have been programmed to think and believe about any aspect of life, like what is right, what's wrong, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. And this has been happening since our birth, and it continues all the way up to the last moments, right? The social conditioning, and we are the victim of this. And as a result, one of the commonest thinking pattern that we experience is this all or none law. We tend to judge on the either extremes of the spectrum. So as a result, what happens is people become either good or bad, generous or selfish, smart, dumb, brave or coward. We just tend to think on the either extremes of the spectrum. And unfortunately, this also eventually, this kind of thinking pattern, it extends when it comes to talents, whether the talents in others or the talent in our own self. And when I'm referring to talent, I'm referring to these beautiful qualities, traits in the human mind. So, and the most unfortunate part is this is happening unintentionally. Nobody is doing it intently. This is just happening unintentionally and subconsciously, that people are not even aware that this is happening to them, but yet it is happening to them. So that's the most unfortunate part. So the fundamental mistake is that if a talent is not seen or not experienced, we tend to believe that it is absent, right? But the fact is, talent is never totally absent. It is never totally absent. Now, this is a night sky. Is our sun visible here? Of course not. Now, this is a cloudy sky. Is the sun really absent there in the sky? No. So just because I cannot see it, I cannot access it, I have not seen it, it doesn't mean that it is absent there. And over a period of time, I prefer to think of talent as a spectrum where the spark represents unexpressed talent or the unexpressed potential. It exists there in the form of potential, which is unexpressed. And it increases progressively, right? As you can move towards the right. And you can also see there's a correlation. The more you practice of any of this talent, the more is available to you, the more you tap. It is just like flexing a muscle. The more you flex, the more it grows, right? So I tend to believe like this, and it is really helpful. Now, so what's the solution? So that was the first solution, like the way we see talent. The other thing is the reframe. The next trick or the next tool is to reframe. So how nice if we can reframe that. So far, the talent has not been seen or experienced, but it is there. So if we can reframe, if we start or initiate to think like and believe like this, a lot of possibilities, doors to the possibilities open for us. Let's take a practical example. Your son, say these days, the children are very busy with mobiles, right? So instead of thinking that my son or my child lacks the self-control for the use of mobile, what if you could just reframe, so far my child has not demonstrated the skill or the self-control necessary for the use of mobile. Let's take another reframing example. So when it comes to exercise, a lot of people you will hear saying that, oh, well, I'm not a self-disciplined person when it comes to exercise. So instead of concluding that or thinking that I lack a self-discipline, how nice if we could reframe that. So far, I have not been able to consistently demonstrate self-discipline when it comes to exercise. So by introducing this so far, you're actually opening the possibility of something different, some different possibility in future. But if we just say, okay, I'm not a self-disciplined person. Now you're actually making it a real and you are perpetuating it. So that's the trick. So that's the tool, you can say. Any idea where this Death Valley, this is a place on the planet. Any idea where this Death Valley is? All right. This is the hottest and driest place in the America. It's in the California state. And the reason, this is how it of course looks like. And the name Death Valley, it comes from the fact that nothing grows out there, nothing organic grows there. Obviously, because it doesn't rain there. But in the winter of 2004, the Death Valley experienced torrential rains, huge rains. And in the spring of 2005, the Death Valley looked like this, completely carpeted with the flowers and vegetables, vegetations and so on. So was the potential for this organic growth was really absent all these years? It was certainly not. The potential always existed. It existed in the unexpressed or the dormant form. The moment the favorable conditions were created, the life just blossomed. And the same is with our talents. The only missing ingredient here was water. The rest of the all ingredients were in place. The only missing ingredient, water, when it was added, the life just blossomed. Now that's an example from, say, nature. Let's take an example from the humans. Any idea of this? I hope we have heard this story of Maharishi Narad and a dacoit. So anyway, it's a very interesting story. He was a dacoit and a person who earned his living by killing and robbing people. But when he came in contact with the Maharishi sage Narad, the same dacoit eventually went on to become Maharishi Valmiki, the same person who wrote epic Ramayana. So was that the talent was really absent in him, or it was in the dormant stage and it was waiting for him? That missing ingredient was satsang, the divine company of sage Maharshi. Now let me give you one more relatable example. Mr. Wall, Rahul Dravid, classic test cricket player. But when, of course, everyone knew that he was one of the finest test player, but there were a lot of debates whether to include him in the one-day international squad, right? But eventually he was added to the ODI squad and he went on to score more than 10,000 runs. And he's one of those rare, less than 10 players who have scored more than 10,000 runs in the ODI as well as the test cricket. But another statistics that really I find intriguing and very interesting is the fact that at the fag end of his career, when the IPL started, he played IPL more than 100 games and scored more than 2,000 runs. But the most interesting fact is he scored those runs with a strike rate of 140. But it's the same Rahul Dravid. So the ability to play more aggressively or pace an inning, score fast, wasn't missing, wasn't absent. It's just that it evolved over a period of time. He was able to tap into that ability more and more, right? So maybe the missing ingredient in his case was the need of the time. So when he was introduced into the T20, of course, he required to pace his inning, play more aggressively, score fast. So that need of the situation was allowed him to tap into that potential. So it's like as you go deeper and deeper, you are just like peeling the layers of the onion. So each of this layer represents a kind of personality. When you dissolve that personality, you go deeper and you get an access to the newer, more refined personality, and then so on. So let me introduce to a very beautiful concept that I call same person, but a different personality. Now, this is the only question probably where I will be seeking your inputs. I really want you to think and maybe write in the chat box, what do you think is one of the best skill set that a person should have? What skill set you think is the best to have? All right. So we'll move on. I'm not able to see actually the chat box. So this is one of my favorite coach, Tony Robbins. And he said very interesting and very beautiful thing that resonated with me like anything. He said, the ability to change your emotional state at will is one of the finest ability a person can have. Your ability to change your emotional state at will, consciously, right? Now, a lot of people, of course, successful people experience a lot of negative emotions, right? But the fact that because they are skillful, they don't stay in those negative emotional states. They bounce back quickly. They put themselves in a more neutral or say positive emotional states. And that's what makes a big difference in their success. We'll explain why I'm saying so. This is an upside down house, right? And that's what precisely happened to my thinking. Earlier, I used to think in order for me to be happy, I got to be successful, right? But that's not quite the case. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. I got to be happy first in order to be successful. Well, that sounds a little crazy. How can I be happy even before a success? But I will explain why it is so. So you can see these are the range of different human emotions. And emotions, as we know, emotions are the energy in motion. It's an energy. So it has a vibrational frequency, right? So you can see a range of our emotions with their corresponding vibrational frequency. And as you can see at the bottom, there are a lot of negative emotions. And as you move up the ladder, the vibrational frequency goes up. And that is the time when we are in the expanded state of consciousness or the contracted state of consciousness at the bottom, right? Now, why this is important to understand? So you can see this is how actually it correlates. If you are vibrating at a lower emotional frequency, you are most likely to attract a very negative thoughts, then negative people, negative incidents, negative places in your life. And that's why you are less likely to be more successful. But as you raise your vibration, as you put yourself, consciously put yourself in a more beautiful state of mind, beautiful emotional states. So you are raising your vibrations. And as you raise your vibrations, the more empowering thoughts, more empowering people, more empowering situations, places, incidents will start happening. And they are very essential in the process of success. So you can see these different emotional vibrational frequency correlating with the state of, say, different stages on your way to success. And that's why it is very essential that we put ourselves in a beautiful emotional state so that we can build our success on that foundation. Now you might be wondering, how can I be really happy if things are not going my way? And I used to ask this question quite frequently. How is it possible in the first place to be happy if the things are not really not going my way? And I'm going to share one beautiful tool that is really helpful. And that is change the meaning. So we can change the meaning that we give to a situation, because whatever the meaning we give decides what emotional state we will be in. I'll give an example. The commonest one that we used to see in the vaccination clinics. You can see there is a small swelling on the arm of a child. So we used to get very frequently that the mother will come to us 3-4 days after the vaccination, and she's in a very stressful, fearful situation, emotional state, because like she thought, okay, what is this swelling? What did they do wrong to my child? But the child was really healthy and hearty when I brought the child to the vaccination clinic. So maybe something wrong has happened. Maybe they have made a mistake or something. So that is the meaning she's giving to this swelling. And that's why she's in a state of stress and fear. But then a vaccinator or a counselor there will explain to her, oh, this happens with every single child. Don't worry. This is actually an indication that the vaccine is working. That's why it has developed. Eventually, it will fade. So relax. Take this tablet, and if the child continues to cry, just give this tablet for the next couple of days till it subsides. Now she has a completely different meaning. So the swelling remains same. Now she is giving a meaning that it happens with every child. So this is a very common side effect. And the fact that there's a swelling, it means the vaccine has started working, and now my child will be protected from the disease. Same swelling, completely different emotional state. What has shifted? She has changed the meaning she is giving to this swelling. Let's take another example. We are all are working in different places, right? So just imagine you didn't get a promotion. Now, typically, the thinking process that we may experience is like, okay, I always mess it up, or maybe office politics, management always ignores me. They really don't care or value my talent and experience. So if you give this meaning to this incident or this fact that I didn't get a promotion, so if this is the meaning that we give, we are likely to be in a more negative emotional state. And what if we consciously train to give a different meaning, like maybe it's an opportunity for me to work on myself, sharpen my skills, or maybe my skill sets are more suitable for some other role in the organization at a higher role. Or maybe this position at this stage probably will not serve me best. And the last one is my favorite. Maybe God has some better plans for me. So now if we give this meaning to the same incident, I'm sure I may not be very joyful for not getting a promotion, but yes, I will certainly be, this will help me to bounce back from that negative emotional state into the more neutral or eventually positive emotional state. So that's how, so you can clearly see this will put me into a more negative emotional state. And this will enable to put me into a more neutral or eventually a positive emotional state. So the take home message, talent is never totally absent. In fact, whatever we need, I strongly believe that is already there within us. And in fact, I also believe that each one of us is facing a different set of challenges. And the talents which are required to solve or deal with those challenges are specifically there within you, embedded within you. All we need is an enabling environment for that talent to blossom, that missing ingredient. And that missing ingredient could be different, as we saw in the previous system. Happiness is the key to success. Don't wait for the success to be happy, right? Then consciously, if you're able to manage our emotional state, that is one of the finest or the best skill set that you can have as a person. And change the meaning that we give to an incident. That will shift our emotions. And mind you, why this emotional shift is important? Because your response to that situation is dictated by your emotions. And before I leave, there's food for thought. I just want to take these two sentences as you go home. Same person, but a different personality. Same incident, but a completely different set of emotions because of a different set of meaning. Thank you.
Thank you, Vikas, for an insightful session. A lot of learnings, and like you rightly mentioned, one person, different responses and emotional states make a lot of a difference. And you represented it very beautifully, pictorially throughout the session. I think if there are any questions, you can raise your hands and I can unmute. Anyone has any questions or any feedback that you want to share for Dr. Vikas or Maree? Ivan, I have allowed you. Can unmute and speak.
Yeah, Dr. Vikas, I only wanted to say it's actually a very good session. It's really nicely articulated, and especially seeing it, emotion or whatever situation, how to see things in a more positive way. It will build you in a better way to improve things further. I think that was a very good lesson. Probably for me, actually, I don't think I have really looked more on positive side on all different scenarios probably. So it's a good take for me to understand. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it and resonated with you. But you are not alone. A lot of us tend to be more negative about any incident. It really takes a conscious
Right.
training to put ourselves in a neutral or positive emotional state.
True.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I think Maree wanted to say something.
Yeah. Maree, you wanted to speak?
No.
Okay. Gurdeepji, you want to say something? Should I allow you? I've allowed you, Gurdeepji.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, Dr.
Yeah.
Vikas.
Yeah,
Dr. Vikas, thank you very much. So it's a good session. So the key take point is because we have a preconceived idea in our mind, as you rightly said, ki if any situation, so we are come across a default meaning, right? Ki I mess up the things or office politics is there, right? Or someone is ignoring me. These are the by default things which is come in our mind. But yes, so you rightly said ki we need to empower our mind and we think in a positive manner. So it's a good session overall. Thank you very much, Vikas.
And you have
thank
any
you.
any inputs for Maree also, the SCAR framework are related?
But I joined little late, right?
Okay. Okay. So no worries. Gurdeepji is Vice President of our Punjab chapter. So I thought it will be good.
So I just want to add something
Yeah.
what Gurdeepji has said. And some of these things may actually be true. Actually, you may have actually been denied a promotion because of some office politics or whatever. That may actually be a fact. But yet,
Hmm.
you just thinking about it is not going to help you. That's
Hmm.
the beauty. So even if it may be a fact, you can still
Hmm.
have the choice to give a different meaning and then shift your emotions because your emotion dictates your response.
Yes, quite right. Hmm.
Thank you.
So yeah, so I when Vikas told me that we want to have two coaches in one session, I was slightly apprehensive about it. But I think now if I see both sessions gel and stitch together very well, like when we do assessment of staff and we find a lot of signals which might be threat signals, we might feel demotivated about it. And Dr. Vikas has also given us a framework or a kind of suggestions throughout his sessions how to deal with that kind of anxiety or the a little bit of not so positive feeling that will come at that point in time and encourage us to convert those threat signals that we are sending and the anxiety that has come along to into encouragement of power to convert them for sending the reward signals. So now I can see it very well gelling together. So thank you to both of you for such an insightful session, and we'll look forward to host you some time in the future, near future as well.
Thank you, Varandi, for this opportunity, and I'm also very eagerly looking forward to another opportunity to interact with this.
Yeah. Thank you so much. See you. Bye-bye.
Right. Bye.